Hey everyone, it's Lisa Danforth. We're here for Sustainable Leadership Live. It's a show about how to lead in a way that sustains and inspires us, our teams, and our community. And today we have the fabulous Kristen Daukas, right? And talking about two little letters. No, and I can't wait to hear what you're going to be sharing, Kristen. We're going to jump right in, but before we do, I'm just going to share a little bit about Kristen and all of her expertise. So Kristen has been a strategic marketing professional for more than 15 years. She started her first marketing firm in 2008 that focused on providing social media and digital marketing services and consulting for small to mid-sized businesses. After the infamous turn of events in 2020, I think we all know what she's talking about there. She decided that it was time to do it again, and Say Anything Media was reinvented. So, Kristen, thank you so much for coming today. I
Thanks
appreciate
for
it.
having me. Of course.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
So let's jump right in because this is
Okay.
a big topic. It's an important topic. It encompasses every area of our life. What is it that inspired you so much to want to talk about? No.
Because we're all guilty of being literally, people are afraid to say no. We as a society, and especially women, this is not a female only thing. Men absolutely have it because we're all pleasers. Human beings are pleasers, and they're at the root nurturers, right? We don't want to disappoint anyone. We don't. We just don't want to do it, and especially, and this is the word no. It is a really hard word to say when you're younger, right? As we get a little bit older, we realize that our time is a commodity. And so if one of the big keys for me is I finally understood that if I'm saying yes to you, Lisa, you come to me and you say, can you please help us out with the PTA fundraiser? And I don't want to, because now I'm going to disappoint you. I'm going to disappoint the school. I'm going to disappoint the kids. So of course, it's almost like you feel like you have to say yes, right? Because otherwise people are like, oh my God, she's the one that said no. But then,
Right to the school.
Exactly. So I say yes. And then 2 weeks later, I get this amazing opportunity to be able to go and speak at a women's forum, right? But guess what? I can't because I said yes so that I wouldn't disappoint somebody else. So in the end, who's disappointed? Me. And I've gotten to the point I'm pretty, and I'm going to say this very proudly, I've become very selfish. We only have so many days on this earth that I would much rather spend my time doing things that bring me happiness and bring me peace than trying to please you. Now, if I can do it, that's fine. And another thing that I see people struggle with is they want to keep going. So I want everybody listening to this to understand this. No is a complete sentence.
Hallelujah, right? Period.
And just stop talking. If you feel like you have to continue to say something, I appreciate that you've asked me to do it. Unfortunately, I do not have time for that at this time.
You mean not, well, I have to pick up the kids or
Exactly.
I've got a meeting and then and then you're on your heels and it's so easy to go off balance and go, oh, all right, it's for the PTA.
And this is for the sisters. This is for for the sorority, is if you will ever step back and watch a men don't explain. They don't sit there and go, no, let me say, rarely do men explain. Rarely. There are some ones, if they feel like they have to. But I typically find that if a man is explaining, he's explaining it to a woman. No, seriously. I don't know. It's just this interesting dynamic between the genders. Now, if it's, a man to a man, he'd be like, no, man, I can't do it. Sorry. That's it. The conversation's done.
Over.
And you know what else happens? There's no ill will. And we are so afraid that if I tell you no, Lisa, you're going to be mad at me. And most likely you'll be like, okay.
So what are some tools that you have for those of us who have, or I used to have a hard time saying no? I'm like you, I am boundaried up lovingly. Just a quick little thing. Brene Brown has done a lot of studies and she says the most boundaried people are also the most compassionate. So lean into that one a little bit when you're needing to say no.
Yeah.
But can you share some tools and skills for people to start saying no in a way that feels in alignment with who they are, and instead of apologizing?
And I'm gonna lighten this up a little bit. So my rule of
Dig
thumb
right in.
is if it's not a heck yes, it's a heck no. And so if it's not something that I can immediately, like, I will say, I mean, I will overextend myself and say yes, but if
Mhm.
it's on things that I am passionate about. If it's when I was more actively coaching parents, right? When I was coaching parents of teens and tweens, that was passion to me. I would make room on my calendar. I would move things around. I would squeeze it in. I would do it because I was very passionate. If it had anything to do with my kids, 9 times out of 10, I was making room for it. If it was for my business, I was. So it was the things that just people, and people always ask people like us because we're doers, and they know that we'll get stuff done, right? So those are the people you kind of have to watch out for. So, as far as skills, honestly, it was just something I had to just force myself to do. And now it comes naturally. And also the funny thing is that when you start saying no, people tend to ask you less.
Well, they do, right? And they start to get used to it. Absolutely. And I think that is a key component of it. I would love to share one quick thing, because a lot of my clients have difficulty saying no. They're saying yes. They're not looking at the trade-offs, which I'd love to hear more from you about the trade-offs. And then their plate is they're completely overwhelmed and burnt out and not putting their priorities first. So here's something that I recommend people say, which is when someone asks something of you, if you have a difficult time saying no in the moment, just say, can you get back with me next week? I want to check my calendar so that I can make sure that I can, commit to it and give it all that I've got. Now, if the person pushes you, because let's admit, those of us who have said yes for so long, people usually know that if they push it, you're like, okay, I'll bake the 457 cookies. If someone is, which
At
we've
10
all,
o'clock at night.
like 9 o'clock for tomorrow morning. But say, okay, if you need an answer right now, then it's going to need to be no. But if you're willing to get back with me next week, I'm more than happy to look at my calendar. So what that does is it creates enough space, a pause, my favorite word, pausing, creates enough space for you to look at your calendar and go, oh, that's a hell no for sure. Right. So
Yeah.
that has proved to be absolutely beneficial. Oh, we've got Veronica on here. Hey, Veronica. Veronica's going to be on here next week. I'm super
Oh,
excited.
nice.
Oh, my Lord, such simple, good advice. If it doesn't immediately feel right, don't do it.
Yeah.
Awesome advice.
Yeah. And I think, and as we were kind of talking in the green room, I'm working on this. I've got 3 young adult daughters, right? And, again, it really, I hate to stick it to the girls, but it's a girl thing, and for the most part, again, nothing is set in stone. But working with them, it's apologies. We apologize too much, as human beings, as women, and it's stop. They'll say, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," and I'm like, "Did you actually do that?" And they're like, "No," and I'm like, "Why are you apologizing?"
Well, in the grocery store, I can't, which sounds so female, right? But in the grocery store, I can't believe that when I pass by women and they're 3 feet from me, they'll be like, oh, excuse me, sorry. I'm like, it is, we don't even think about what we're saying. And sorry makes us appear as more submissive and less powerful.
Right. Right. But there's a fine balance there too. We all know that strong women tend to not carry the same as strong men, right? So there's a fine, it's okay, like that kind of passing things, like, so sorry, sorry, excuse me, pardon me,
It's automatic.
it's automatic. It just rolls off your tongue, and some of those things. The word just, another thing, what was the word? The word.
Minimizer.
Thank you,
Minimizer.
minimizer.
Well, actually, I was thinking, right, all of those are minimizers of our power.
Right. Yeah, I'm a straight shooter. I kind of go straight. I have to sometimes remember to, like,
I like it,
I'll be typing out an email and I'll go, oh, I probably should go back and say hi. I mean, because I just go
good, right?
I just go straight in for the kill. I need to know. Blah, blah, blah.
So here's a question though. Again, what are some tools that people can use? I mean, I know with just often we can just pull it out,
Right.
but what are some different ways that you would recommend for people to start removing those words that minimize our impact, our power, our message in a way and still keep it powerful? Because I know in the green room, we were talking about how you support your daughters with writing emails and whatnot,
Right.
with
I
removing
don't
those.
write them for them.
Right, you're helping them remove the words.
Right. And sometimes I do. My daughter had a bit of an issue. She's got her first real big girl job, and there's something came up, and I've told her, I was like, you need to set your boundaries, and you need to become more comfortable with doing that. I said, please take it from me. The sooner you learn to set boundaries and expectations of how others are going to treat you, the better your life is going to be. So you said it. Pause. Pausing is such a powerful thing. If you, before you send the email, and I even told her, I said, she's like, I'm like, you don't have to send it. You've written it. It's gotten the off your chest. Let it sit in your drafts. Go do what you need to do and come back later or tomorrow morning and look at it again. That's especially if there's emotion, if there's like, whether you're upset with somebody or whether you're this with someone, it's okay not to send it right then and there. That's the other thing. We've become such an instantaneous society that people expect that if I'm going to ping you on your phone or if I'm going to send you an email, I expect you to respond right away, right? So that's another way that you can kind of stop saying, that you can get to know is, no, I am not going to respond to you at this exact moment. I've had to retrain people in my family. This is a phone. This is not a tether. It's not a leash. I will decide when I respond to you.
So do you have tips or tools for people who, when we have been tied to it for so long, and study after study is showing that it is truly an addiction, our addiction to our phone, the amount of times that we look at our phone, our email, whatever a day is absolutely appalling. It's frightening. Kind of makes my stomach turn. But are there some apps? What are some things that you would recommend for someone? Is there like a quick comment, or an autoresponder or something that would support people in creating that buffer?
Well, if you've got Apple, if you have an iPhone, for instance, there are the autoresponders that, say someone calls you, you could set, I think I have mine disabled because none of them made sense, but I have it on my watch. It's like, if I'm working, a great one. When I'm going to work out, I have my watch on because it can monitor and I can be like, yay, at least 3 days a week. I'm crushing my goals. And, if I get a text, I can just hit a button at the gym, right? Or I choose not to. I have really become passionate over the past year and a half or so that I'm not immediately responding to things. It's just, the standard that it sets, especially like with clients. I have certain clients that, that in the past that have, I'm like, and I understand we are an on the go society. Yes. If I'm sending you an email at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm not expecting you to respond to me. However, and there is a Gmail plugin that you can, I have to look and see what it is.
There are plugins and apps and everything to help
all sorts of
remove
things where you can write your email. You can respond at 4 o'clock in the morning because you just can't sleep anymore, but you can set it to send it like a normal, like 8 o'clock in the morning. And I even have a disclaimer, which I have to admit, I completely plagiarized off of something on LinkedIn, that in my emails at the bottom, it says, we're an always on society. And if you're getting this and when you're not working, it's not because I'm trying to step on your toes. It's just when I'm working, and I expect you to respond when you want to respond.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So
I'm really hearing expectations, setting expectations of when you'll respond, or also expectations of, I don't expect you to respond immediately. Right. So showing some grace.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we, especially as all wonked out as we are after the past 2 years, I mean, nobody's sleep schedule's the same anymore. I am not an early riser. I'm a late person. I'm a night owl. And, so if you're expecting me to respond to you at 8 o'clock in the morning, it's not going to happen. It's just,
let's talk about that a little bit if you're willing, because it's East Coast, West Coast. The West Coast 3 hours behind, or, 2 hours if you're not quite all the way there. But what would you say to someone who they're behind in the hours? If someone wants to contact them or get set up a meeting for 7 a.m. East Coast time, I think that's really tough, especially if it's a client and they can't fit in any other time. Have you experienced that? And what would you recommend?
I tend to tell people when I'm available.
There you go.
I do. If you call me, if you're in California and you're like, hey, our team's going to be meeting at 5 o'clock. Well, that's 8 o'clock to me. I'm like, here are the times I'm available. And I mean, 3 hours before and 3 hours on either side, I'm like, I'm available between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. I have really tried to focus, for me being an entrepreneur, that Mondays are completely off the books.
Mhm.
Monday is my day to get my week off to a good start. I try not to do meetings on Friday. So here, I'm available Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday between 10 and 2. I have a standing commitment to myself to work out at 3:30 on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's my time. That's so that I don't drop dead and leave my children motherless. So, I can, and it's my stress relief, right? So this is when I'm available. If that, I'm available Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday between 10 and 2. I will make exceptions. Of course I will, but
Right.
that's my choice.
Well, and that's the thing, is to be able to pause and to
Exactly.
choose, okay, this, I'm going to choose to put this on the calendar because I'm allowing it, as
Right.
opposed to feeling resentful for having to do it.
So it goes back to, what tools do I say? You know what your boundaries are,
And your goals too. What I really
your
heard you
goals.
just say is, you have those goals of working out 3 days a week. You have goals of spending a certain amount of time with your daughters. So when we can do what's called time and, connect to that time and consistency, we value the present more than we value the future. So we'll often say yes because it feels good, it makes the other person happy. So the reward is in the moment, but the cost is in the future.
That's exactly
So when
right.
we can pause and say, how does this align with my goals? The no comes a lot
Right.
easier.
And it's personal and professional goals. Like,
Oh,
I
always.
know, I know I have to have these meetings with my clients. Otherwise I don't have clients. I want them to be happy, but I also want to set the standard that just because you call me, Lisa, it doesn't mean I'm guaranteed to pick up the phone.
Right.
It's like, I have a new client that I missed a call yesterday. And, my first instinct was like, oh my God, let me run a call. And I'm like, no, no, you're going to finish what you're working on right now because you're ADD enough as it is. You don't need to go squirreling off to do that.
So you've been building your muscle. Like,
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is that it takes time to build this in. We have to have compassionate curiosity of why we're saying yes to something and why we're saying no to something and why we're not looking at the trade-offs. But it really sounds like you've been building the muscle, and eventually it just gets simpler. It's not always easy, but I think it becomes simple, and that's where we can get tripped up.
Yeah.
So I would love to ask you, because we're coming up on time here.
Okay.
Do you have any resources that you could recommend to people? Are there any books that you would recommend, any podcasts or whatnot that would help people to understand how no impacts, what we say yes to and no to create our future?
So I'm a horrible reader. I used to love to read. However, the one book that kind of resonated with me, and everybody knows this book, especially if you're a female, was Glennon Doyle's Untamed.
Mm-hmm.
And it won that, and I made all my girls read it. And anytime I have a young lady who's an intern with me, I'm like, you need to read this book, because the messages that she has in it, which is exactly that, you need to take back your own power, and stop being. You don't have to be the mother, the wife, that you've got to be you first, right? It's like that whole take care of yourself first.
Well, it's all about the sustainable leadership, right? It starts with ourselves, and then our teams, and then our community.
Absolutely.
So it's got to start with them.
Especially with the young ladies. If the young ladies can, again, like I was telling my kids with boundaries, if you can learn this early, you will save yourself so much heartache. Don't wait till you're 45 or 50 to learn to start saying no.
It's our responsibility. And that's the thing. I think it's really hard to understand that it truly is our responsibility to create the future that we want. So, Kristen, what habit, what tool, what skill has been made the biggest amount of impact for you to be able to say no in a confident, unapologetic way?
My calendar.
My
calendar.
Can you talk just a little bit more about that? Because people go like, well, I have a calendar, but I still have a hard time saying no.
So I like to color block my calendar. And so, and even if simple as red, yellow, and green, right? So if
Mhm.
I know that I need to get, like yesterday was, the first day of the month, so reports and invoicing. So literally from 9 until 12, it was red blocked, and it is on the first of every month. So nothing, absolutely nothing can get scheduled there. Then I go through and I schedule yellow time, and that's like, I know I've got things going on, but I might be able to fit something in there. And then green means it's wide open. And I can do whatever I want to. If I want to go and get a pedicure, that's fine. Or if you call me and say, hey, can you come and talk to the women's league forum? I'm like, okay, sure, let's go. So really just if I can control my calendar, and I'm
Mhm.
very serious about my calendar. I've got the digital, I've got the paper one, writing things down,
Yeah.
and just really staying on top of that and being organized, because then a lot of times I've just finally realized over the past few years that I can't keep it all up here anymore.
That happens as we age, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it does.
So write it
So
down, put it
write
on
it
your
down.
calendar, know what your goals are, and
And
really
it
honor.
forces you to pause. And I mean, because I know I've burnt myself too many times where I said yes to you and then I go back to my calendar. I'm like, oh. So the only thing
That was
worse
a
than
hell
saying
no.
I know, and the only thing worse than saying no to somebody at the first is saying yes to them and then going back and having to say,
But I still
sorry to
believe
say
that that
this.
is okay. Like, I
It
still
is.
believe that you can come back and just say, "You know what? I jumped too fast," so that you
I
can
messed up.
honor
I screwed
everyone.
up. Yeah.
So this has been awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your
Thanks for
brilliance.
having me.
Where can people find you, Kristen?
Pretty much anywhere with my name at Kristen Daukas. And all trails will lead to Say Anything Media from there, but the majority of my branding is my name.
Perfect. And be sure to reach out to Kristen on LinkedIn and mention that you saw
Please.
her on the live so that she knows. Follow her. She's got amazing content on there. You will absolutely love it.
Thank you.
So next week, I am interviewing Veronica Williams, who is a leadership coach. She is fascinating. I can't wait to hear what she has to say. So join us next week, Wednesday at 10 a.m. East Coast time. And Kristen, thanks again. Thanks everyone for joining, whether you're live or on the replay.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks. Bye.